How's it going, everyone? Data here, and we have now come to the end of the 2022 NHL trade deadline. And what I'd like to do for you this evening, or maybe tomorrow morning when you're waking up, just want to get a recap of what happened during the day, is give you my quick thoughts on the day, the winners, the losers, and what some of the best value or worst value deals of the day and the last couple of days have been. As you may have seen on the channel, I've been doing some instant analysis videos over the last few days for the Manson trade, the Sherratt trade, but unfortunately, with my work taking up my Monday to Friday life and weekend as well most of the time, I wasn't at home when a lot of these trades went down, so unfortunately I couldn't do a lot of instant analysis videos. But in today's video, I'm going to just go back a few days and start going over some of these trades. Starting from March 14th, I guess we'll start from the Manson trade. Going from there, following through the TSN trade tracker, we'll go through some other pages, some cap friendly, some hockey DBs if the opportunity arises. But my goal of this video is to just get through this, not necessarily super quickly, but it shouldn't be an hour plus of breaking down all the trades like I do usually, maybe 10 minutes per trade in the past, where you're looking into the analytics of each player. I'm just going to talk generally, and if you want to discuss more in the comments, I would love to do that down there. I have a lot more to say about pretty much every trade that happened, so I'd love to discuss that with you in the YouTube comments or over in the Discord server. We were talking all day long. My trade breakers in the Discord server kept me made aware of everything happening while I worked. It was fantastic, so we'd love to have you there. Link in the description. So let's kick this off with March 14th. We're going back about a week, actually exactly a week, to the Josh Manson, Drew Helleson trade. I already did a whole breakdown of this one, so all I'm going to say is I love this trade for both sides, especially for the Ducks, though. Drew Helleson putting up Charlie McAvoy-like numbers with Boston University, a second-round pick as well. We'll get back to Anaheim and how they were one of the winners of the day, just acquiring and stockpiling a very solid amount of picks. Very happy to see that for the Ducks in their rebuild. Expiring UFA has to go, and Colorado happy to pay up. Tyson Jost, Nico Sturm swap, more of a salary thing most likely. Minnesota happy to accommodate. Vetrano to the Rangers for a fourth. Tough for the Panthers because they don't get much value. Great for the Rangers, just that they knew that they had to dump the cap. This was before Ekblad, LTIR, and all that. So Rangers are very happy to take on Vetrano, and it only cost them a fourth. Very, very, very cheap comparatively to the rest of the price tags. Sherratt for, I was calling him Smilanek in my video because I liked that he had a big smile, but I'm pretty sure it's Smelanek, Tyler Smelanek, the prospect. So nice prospect with a first and a fourth. That's going to be a fantastic trade to track in future years. I think the Canadiens come out on top, but of course it's a fair trade. And as was commented in the Sherratt comments in that video from Chris Chung, he said, flags fly forever. Got to remember that. The flags fly forever. Panthers bomb out in the first round, of course, first, fourth, and a prospect disaster. They go on to win the cup, and Ben Sherratt's playing 20 minutes a night, no problem. So got to keep that in mind as well. But as of now, I think both teams got what they wanted, basically. Calle Jarnkrok to the Flames for a second, third, and a seventh. Seattle, once again, happy to accommodate. I saw a funny tweet when they said release the Kraken. They weren't kidding. Jarnkrok, Appleton, Giordano, Blackwell, a lot of the original Kraken moving today. Marcus Johansson as well. The Hagel trade, this I would probably spend a lot of time on this, but I think quickly just what I want to say is this is not as lopsided as people think. Yeah, a lot of people think that the Blackhawks fleeced the Lightning. 2 firsts, fantastic, but the Lightning are not going anywhere anytime soon. Those are 2 late first-round picks. A first is a first, absolutely. Guaranteed those are late-round picks. And wow, and 2 prospects? Taylor Radish, he's 24, has like 12 points in 58 games. Boris Kachuk is 23, has 6 points in I think 38 games. I don't know if they were really going to do much on Tampa. They wouldn't have been able to get the money they wanted, the ice time they wanted. Makes sense to dump them before their value gets even lower. Hagel is signed for 2 more years after this one at $1.5 million cap hit. He's on pace for 31 goals this season. He is going to be middle six scoring at a cheap cap hit, which is exactly what Tampa Bay needs. And they even get a couple 4th-round picks with it as well. So Tampa is very happy. If they get 3 or 4 consecutive cups, I don't think people are going to be crying about Boris Kachuk and Taylor Radish in a few years. Nick Delory for a 3rd-round pick. Once again, Anaheim capitalizing and getting a solid draft pick for a guy who was good but wasn't going to be a part of the future. I love that deal. The Hampus Lindholm trade, another one we could spend a lot of time on. A first and 2 seconds with Vakanainen and John Moore for Lindholm and Cody Curran. Lindholm subsequently signing an 8-year, $6.5 million deal. I saw Jay Fresh on Twitter. I'll be going to some Jay Fresh stuff later on with his player cards and things like that. He said if the if the Lindholm contract starts with anything but above a 5, that he's going to lose it, and it's for 6.5. So, again, flags fly forever. If Lindholm's a big piece on the left side without Krug, without Chara in the future years, that's nice, but that's going to be, even though the cap goes up, it's going to be a tough contract when he's in his mid to late 30s, getting 6.5 a year. Big trade again, major trade once more. TSN telling you. Claude Giroux, a 5th, Connor Bunnaman, and German Rubtsov going to the Panthers for Owen Tippett, a 1st and a 3rd. A lot of people, I don't think it was Giroux, it was more the throwing in Bunnaman and Rubtsov that people were confused with. Owen Tippett, a 10th overall selection a few drafts ago, hasn't really been able to thrive much in Florida. He's been a roster player for sure. It's not like he's been buried, but he hasn't had a ton of opportunity / results, I suppose. And so Florida gets him, and they get a 1st and a 3rd, but they send back a 5th, and they give up a couple of pieces as well with Giroux. I think this is more because Giroux was only going to be waiving his no trade clause to go to Florida. Boston's offer was reportedly much better, or even just better. Colorado, I'm sure they had a solid offer on the table as well. So I think the Flyers knew that, and they even squeezed a little bit out of the Panthers by saying, listen, these guys aren't going to make your lineup, give them to us. We'll send you back Giroux and even a 5th little sweetener. It's not the worst. Again, it's not the worst. But if Panthers win the Cup and Bunnaman and Rubtsov are in the lineup in a few years, Tippett busts out, and the picks don't go anywhere, Flyers are going to be upset that they traded their all-time. Second all-time in points? Claude Giroux after 1,000 games. Again, tons of speculation there. But just to say, I think that yes, the Flyers could have gotten more in a perfect world, but the Panthers knew that Giroux was only going to waive his no trade clause to come there. It's a fair trade in the end, especially with the options that Giroux provides the Panthers. So I like it for both teams. Not as much as it could have been, but I really hope Tippett can thrive as a top 6 winger on the Flyers now. Hag to the Panthers, another pickup right there. Now, Ekblad to LTIR. The salary's coming through. 6th round pick for a depth defenseman. I like that. That's what the cost should be in this crazy bloated economy. It's much more, but I like that they're able to get him for a 6th. Mark Giordano and Colin Blackwell going to Toronto for a 2 seconds and a 3rd. This is definitely very costly for the Maple Leafs, as they are really mortgaging the future right now. They're really going all in. Mark Giordano, an expiring UFA, and the Leafs have paid a lot for this team to go deep. So with the East being as packed as it is, it's going to be tough. This is going to be a point I bring up a few times. Not only are there a lot of teams that are good, which is normal for an average postseason, there are a lot of teams that are going for it. That's going to make a fantastic postseason this year. But just to say, the Leafs, they have their next 3 first-round picks. That's great. But it's not just your first you need when you got to maintain a hockey team. They have only their own 1st and 7th in this draft. Depends some conditions on that 7th, but they have Winnipeg's 3rd and their own 1st in this next draft. That's tough. In 2023, they lost their 2nd and 7th. 2024, they lost their 3rd so far, with much more to be lost as they make more trades to make runs in the future years. Just to say, it's a lot. I don't mean to be a Leaf hater there or anything, but to only have 2 or 3 picks in a whole draft, and I don't know, would you trade someone to get some picks in the draft itself? This isn't NHL. We can just trade the rights to Wayne Simmons and get a 4th round pick or something, So I'm a bit nervous for Toronto's future. Obviously, for the bigger dynasties, it doesn't matter so much. Like the Lightning going all in and trading 2 firsts, I'm not really harping on that as much because they're going for a 3-peat now. But Toronto, a team that hasn't made out of the first round, to put up that much capital, you really gotta hope that it's worth it. That's all I'm trying to say. I hope that Toronto, I hope that it works out. I'm not a Leafs fan. I'm a Habs fan. But from a hockey perspective, I hope it works out. Giordano getting a cup, that would be fantastic. Just the East, I don't know if I see Toronto even making it out of the first round. Not because of the meme, just I don't know if I see them making it out of the first round with the competition. Travis Hamonic for a 3rd. That one really makes you scratch your head. Hamonic, depth defenseman, making $3 million next year. Could have gotten Philippe Myers was put on waivers, right? Could have gotten him for free. and paid less, but now you pay more and give up a third round pick. I'm not even going to talk anymore about that trade. A lot of people have no idea why, but the Senators get Travis Hamonic for a third round pick. Detroit trades Stetcher to the Kings for a 7th. I think that's just expiring UFA for just whatever they can get. No problem. Travis Dermott then goes to the Maple Leafs for a third round pick, a guy who I could see being a future top 4 D-man. Maybe you might laugh, but I think that could happen in the future on the right team. He goes for a third. That's the same price as Hamonic, just like an hour later. I like that trade for the Leafs, recouping a pick, and I think that's Winnipeg's. That was Winnipeg's pick we just saw. Recouping a pick and giving Dermott some life. I love this trade here for the Senators. Mathieu Joseph and a 4th round pick in exchange for the expiring contract of Nick Paul. His value is pretty much at an all-time high. Speaking of value, like Brandon Hagel, he's shooting at like 22% right now. That's all-time high. That's, he's going to come back down to earth for sure. Still middle 6 scoring, but it's going to come back down to earth. When you have a guy like Nick Paul, who's just consistently what he is, nothing more, nothing less. A team like Tampa, they would love that kind of guy. Only cost him a 4th round pick, and again, another piece, Mathieu Joseph, who I think he was going to be an RFA this year. He would have wanted to get paid, and Tampa just didn't have that money or that roster space. So off to Toronto, get me a depth piece for the 3-peat, and we'll rinse and repeat for next year. Seattle getting a 2nd round pick for Jérémy Lauzon. This one I love for Seattle. A 2nd rounder for Lauzon. That's wild. I like Lauzon. He's bounced around a few teams now. This is his 3rd team in 2 years, from Boston to Seattle to Nashville. I don't know what he's going to do on Nashville or how much. I feel like that's a bit of a desperation move from Nashville to give up a 2nd round pick for just like a depth guy or even a 3rd pair guy. I feel like that's a lot to give up, and really the market's drying up. We got to go quick, and Seattle knows it. So Seattle's doing what they should have done, which was try and get picks out of teams that want players. It took them an extra year. I don't find they did the expansion draft as well as they could have. But hey, now they have 4 2nd round picks, a 3rd, 3 4th round picks, and then the rest of their own. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7 of their own. 4 seconds, 3/4. Those 4 seconds can be moved for other pieces, or just that, those are 4 future roster players. Then in 2023, you have 3 seconds and 3/4. 2/3 and 3/4 and 2/6. And then in 2024, 3 years away already, you have 2/3 and 2/7. I love this for Seattle, taking a bit of a slow approach. They could have been a better team out of the gate, but they drafted some guys in the expansion draft. They moved them for picks. They pulled the old NHL 22, and they'll go that way. Scott Wedgwood moving for a 4th round pick to the Dallas Stars. I like that for Dallas. People were talking about Braden Holtby moving, but instead Wedgwood becomes the 3rd goalie, and Holtby will stay. So I like that for the Stars. Gives them some goaltending depth, because if one of those guys gets injured, they don't have anybody else. Ben Bishop's retired. Khudobin's out for 6 months. They had to get a 3rd goalie, and a 4th round pick is not a crazy price to pay. I like that. The Coyotes pick up Jack McBain for a 2nd round pick. The player out of, Quinnipiac? No, that's where. That's Smilanic. It's Boston University. Yeah, Jack McBain for a 2nd. Wasn't going to sign with Minnesota. Goes to the Coyotes. Curious to Arizona, as other teams wanted him, and they wouldn't acquire him unless McBain said he was going to go. So McBain to the Coyotes. Now we're moving into, it says March 20th, 12:15 a.m. That's March 21st, though. Mason Appleton, another piece to move from Seattle Kraken back to the team he originally came from. Trying to do this in one take after a long day at work. 2023 4th round pick for Seattle. I like it. Nathan Beaulieu off to the Penguins for a conditional 7th round pick. How the mighty have fallen with Nathan Beaulieu. He was traded from the Canadiens for what, like a 2nd or a 3rd, something like that. And now he moves a few years later for a 7th. Did not work out in Winnipeg. Gave a lot of headaches to the Canadiens and the Jets, I think. Don't mean to put him down or anything, just was not what the Jets thought he would be. The Jets also trade the salary cap of the contract of Brian Little and this guy Nathan Smith to the Coyotes just for a 4th round pick. So the Coyotes basically just getting a prospect for a pick, and instead of paying a 2nd like it would have cost for McBain, maybe it only costs a 4th because they take on Brian Little's contract. Another former player going back to his team, Mark Johansson, going back to the Washington Capitals. Not where he was drafted in the expansion draft, but he played there before. Seattle getting a 4th, a 6th, and Daniel Sprong. So it was actually, if it was just a 4th and a 6th, I wouldn't have been surprised. But throw in Daniel Sprong. This is the first player card I'll go to. Here's Nathan Beaulieu, who's at 3% in the percentiles of wins above replacement. Wins above replacement, also, if you're curious, basically it means how many wins did that player, how much did that player contribute to getting that team wins that would not have happened were he not in the lineup. For example, the example that Jay Fresh gives that is, if you have Connor McDavid as a win above replacement of 8, that means if you took out McDavid and you put in a 13th forward, you would have 8 less wins on the year. Nathan Beaulieu, if you take him out of the lineup and you put in a 7th defenseman, there's not much of a difference. That's why he's only in the 3rd percentile, and McDavid's in the 100th percentile. So it's always in relation to a 13th forward or a 7th defenseman replacing you in the lineup if you were to come out. So Beaulieu at a 3%, that's just rough. I'll just keep it at that. Other things about Anton Forsberg, Jake DeBrusk signing an extension, Mark Johansson at 30%, in the 30th percentile, I mean. Daniel Sprong here, he is a bottom 6th winger who scored very efficiently in limited numbers. So in the 71st percentile, but what these things don't take into consideration is the context. So he's in the 99th percentile of goals per 60, but obviously he's not winning the Maurice Richard. It's bottom 6, limited minutes. So take that into consideration when you're looking at these numbers as well. But just to say, he's doing okay. He is doing okay. So the Kraken get Sprong and a couple picks. I like it. Marc-Andre Fleury going to the Minnesota Wild from the Chicago Blackhawks for for a second round pick that becomes a first if Minnesota makes the conference finals and Fleury wins 4 of the first 8 wins, basically, to make it to the conference finals. So a 2022 second that could turn into a first. Marc-Andre Fleury on the Wild. I love it. Coming to the arena with Bill Guerin. I love this move. A bit questionable after that they would trade Kakinen and not Talbot, but they're going to go 1A, 1B, basically. Fleury, obviously, the starter, though, and Talbot's there if need be. And the Wild are going in. Another team that is going for it. Not just a good team. They are going for it. You don't give up your second, first, whatever, if you are not going for it, especially for a big name like Marc-Andre Fleury. Love the flower. Not much to say about this deal aside from I love it. He's the locker room's going to love him. He is skilled. He is poised. He has experience. He has 3 Stanley Cup rings. No problem. Jacob Middleton, the defenseman that a lot of people talked about in the media the last few weeks, a guy who's not really well known, but as soon as the Maple Leafs had shown some interest, they said, you know what, Middleton, he was giving solid results as Erik Karlsson's partner and on the penalty kill, 65th percentile of projected wins above replacement, even strength defense, 76th, PK very strong at 89%, so he moves to the Minnesota Wild for Kaapo Kähkönen to free up that goalie spot, and a 5th round pick. I think the Sharks are over the moon to do that trade. They were probably going to get a 3rd or a 2nd round pick. I think a 2nd round pick for Middleton, I believe, is what it was. And they end up getting a future starting goaltender for after James Reimer's done after next season. They can start splitting the crease this year and next year, and then Kähkönen is their starter moving forward, where Minnesota wasn't ready to commit to Kähkönen because Talbot still had years left on his contract, and it was a bit of a splitting the crease type of thing. So I think the Sharks are very happy with that deal. It'll help them for years to come. Biega to the Predators for future considerations from Toronto, just a cap dump pretty much. Justin Braun to the Rangers from the Flyers for a 3rd round pick. I like this one as well. Justin Braun, it's not fully in order here, but there we go. 40% at the wins above replacement. Even strength defense at 92%. He is a veteran shutdown defender and penalty killer who put up strong defensive results in a second pair role on one of the league's worst defensive teams. So something to be said about that. He's going to the Rangers for a 3rd. The Rangers were in on Sherratt and some other defensemen, so I like this for them. Only cost them a 3rd, while guys like Lauzon cost a 2nd. So I'm happy with this deal for the Flyers. They get a good pick, and the Rangers get a good player. Kings get Allard for Burke. Not really anything to say about this trade. I'm not going to lie. I do not know these players. Very minimal type. One of those swaps where it's just one guy for another who need a change of scenery. Sometimes to fill out the AHL roster, different positions. Defender for left winger. Brett Kulak to the Edmonton Oilers from the Montreal Canadiens for William, I don't know if it's Lageson or Lageson, but I think it's Lageson, a 2022 second and a 2024 seventh. So Brett Kulak, I gotta say, he's very underrated. Another good ROI, return on investment. Kulak being a player that the Canadiens got for basically nothing when they traded for him. 93rd percentile for even strength defense. He has a strong record of putting up great results on both on a bottom pair or in a higher role with a more offensively skilled partner. He is smart, low-key, useful at both ends, and he was part of the league's best 5-on-5 pairing for a few years with Jeff Petrie in 18-19 and 19-20. So Brett Kulak, if as a Canadiens fan, I was able to watch him a lot more. He is very underrated, I do have to say. He was a good defenseman. He did things well. He had a strong track record, like Jay Fresh says here, of just getting good results. You do one thing wrong and it shows a lot, but a lot of those things that you do well that people don't talk about as much go a long way. So Lageson, not sure. Yeah, actually, yes. Jay Fresh did put a little thing on him. Here he is. There we go. 39th percentile. He's 25, depth guy, expiring deal. I think if he plays 18 more games, he becomes an RFA, but if not, he'll be a UFA. Will the Canadiens keep him? Well, couldn't really tell you. But 51st percentile of defense, not the end of the world. So whether they keep him or not, it would be nice if they did, because then you could track it down the road. But still, a second and throw in a little extra seventh for fun for Brett Kulak, a guy who was a third pair guy who you got for nothing a few years back. It's a sad one. It's a fan favorite, but more picks added there. Oilers second added to the 2022 as well as the 2024 seventh. So I like it a lot. It's sad, but I do like it a lot. So wishing Kulak all the best. Edmonton needs defense, and they paid a pretty penny. I'm curious as to what the cost would have been if they traded for, I don't know, just another player who had already been traded for, say, a month ago when they could have just hopped. They didn't have to wait until the deadline. Would it have cost them a roster player and 2 picks, including a second? I don't think so. So they waited long. They didn't get a big name, and it cost them big name money, basically. So all the best to Kulak and the Oilers, but I'm happy as a Canadiens fan with that return. Ottawa Senators get Zach Senyshyn and a 5th-round pick for Josh Brown and a 7th. The Zach Senyshyn era is over on Boston. One of those first-round picks in 2015 when they passed on guys like Matt Barzal for drafting Senyshyn. So give him a change of scenery. Go to Ottawa. Find a spot in the lineup where you can do something. Here's Brown, 22% in the projected wins above replacement, a depth defensive defenseman. So that's what their 15th overall pick in Senyshyn, or 13th, 14th, or 15th, one of those three turned into a tough ROI for the Bruins. But I like that deal a lot for the Senators. They give a 7th and get a 5th. Brown, who they weren't going to keep or wasn't doing, wasn't really going to stay, I don't know. But who doesn't really change up their team that much, turns into Senyshyn. I like it. So here's a major trade, I think, in my eyes and in the league's eye, maybe not in TSN's eyes, but the Montreal Canadiens trading Artturi Lehkonen to the Colorado Avalanche for Justin Barron and a 2nd-round pick. So Lehkonen, great player. Honestly, at the start of the season, I was not sold on Lehkonen. I thought, that, honestly, at the very beginning of the season before it started, I said, I don't think this guy's even getting re-signed by the Canadiens at the end of this year. He's just going to go to free agency. But you know what? He silently put together an amazing season. 97th percentile for even strength defense as a forward, and 80th as an offensive player as well on offense. So he's a hardworking forechecking middle 6 winger who has elevated everybody he's played with this year to a ridiculous extent. And then if you look at this graph right here, Lehkonen has played almost every game this season, yet his results compared to his teammates look like this. The rest of the Canadiens are all down here. All down here. The goals for and the goals against, and he's up here. So somehow he's doing it. The Canadiens love Lehkonen. He's leadership candidate. People were talking about him being an alternate captain next year, and any offer was going to have to be a 1st-round pick plus. So they got Justin Barron, a 1st-round pick prospect. He was drafted in 2020 at 25th overall. He's a defenseman playing in the QMJHL, I believe. Very strong defensive prospect. He was on the World Junior team. And a 2nd-round pick for Lehkonen. I love this deal in terms of the return. It hurts to lose Lehkonen, but it's a fantastic trade in terms of what we got back. And now looking at the Canadiens draft picks, you got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 3 thirds, 3 fourths, 5, 6, and 2 7ths. Next year, 2 firsts, 2 fifths. And then in 2024, you have Colorado second because we lost ours. And then you have Edmonton 7th as well. The Canadiens lost their 2024 7th in the... Okay, so that's still conditional. Oh, yes, that's an official, not conditional, in the Christian Dvorak trade. So Christian Dvorak, he could still get moved, but that'll be a return, an ROI that we'll look at on another day. But they get their 2024 second in Colorado, and they actually throw in a first-round pick prospect. Not a first-round pick, but a prospect who was picked in the first round. I like it. Moving on now, trying to trek through the rest here. We're at 2:05 p.m. Nick Leddy and Luke Witkowski going to the St. Louis Blues for Jake Wallman, Oscar Sundqvist, and a second-round pick. Sundqvist, a roster player who can be with Detroit for years to come. Wallman, a solid defensive prospect, and a second-round pick in exchange for Nick Leddy. Witkowski, I'm assuming, was just for the roster spots. But Nick Leddy, very interesting case here, Nick Leddy. And Sundqvist... he's regressed since St. Louis won the Cup, but still slots in as an adequate fourth-line penalty killer. He's not the big piece. It's more Wallman, who is, yeah, there you go. It's more interesting. Jay Fresh, you read my mind. He played minuscule, sheltered minutes for St. Louis, but was a microstat chart breaker and one of the most trigger-happy defensemen in the league. Maybe something there, maybe not. Just keep that in mind. Now, Nick Leddy, though, he is an interesting one. He's a smooth-skating, puck-moving defenseman who is also a major drain on his team's results at both ends of the ice. There might not be a blue liner in the game with a bigger gap between transition skills and on-ice impact. So he's on the expiring deal. He's 30 years of age. Some numbers are good. Some numbers are at the absolute bottom here, as Jay Fresh says. Interesting graphs over the last 3 years. Percentile of WAR was close to 75. Now it's down at 17. Is that because he was on Detroit? Yeah, for sure. But still, you can still have a good WAR being on a bad team. And it was, it wasn't crazy costly, but a couple pieces, including a good prospect and a second-round pick. I don't know if I love this move for St. Louis. Yes, it's an expiring deal, but I don't know if I see the Blues as a team that's really going for it. I would almost be, I don't know if this is wrong, but if I was a GM of the Blues, I'd almost be like afraid of making a deal like this because of the teams that are going so in. Let Colorado, Florida, and Tampa and everybody trade all their picks for all these guys. Let them fight it out for the Cup. I don't know if my team is ready to fight it out for the Cup right now. I don't know. Kairu's having a great year, and Bushnevich, Tarasenko, Thomas. Yeah, fantastic. But I don't know if Nick Leddy was really the missing piece. And it costs you, okay, Sundqvist, whatever, if you can replace him on the fourth line. Wallman and a second? I don't know if I love it for St. Louis. I don't know. Jury's still out. Cogliano for a fifth. I love Andrew Cogliano, one of the fastest skaters in the league back in the day. He goes to Colorado for a fifth. Cheap price on a guy who's going to play and give you depth for the playoffs and give you those fourth line minutes as a solid player. He's been a good trooper on the Ducks and Sharks the last few years. I've always been a big fan of Andrew Cogliano. I like that deal for the Avalanche. Johan Larsson going to the Capitals at 50% retained from the Coyotes for a third-round pick. Again, Capitals, I don't know if they really have to give up their third to make Johan Larsson the missing piece to unlock everything. I don't know. Like Zach Sanford going to the Jets for a fifth. Was he the missing piece? Maybe not, but it only cost him a fifth. A third is where we're starting to get into the territory of, okay, these are the pieces I want to use to acquire my missing pieces, my X factors. Is Johan Larsson that X factor for a third round pick? I don't know. Will that third overall pick even ever become anything? No, not guaranteed. But he does have good numbers here, 63%. He's been great defensively. Quietly been one of the most effective shutdown centers in the league. I'm not saying all this to say that Johan Larsson isn't good. I'm just saying, or that he's not worth a third-round pick, because he is. It's just that I'm not sure, again, if I would have done it as the GM of a team that is not Toronto, Florida, Colorado, Carolina, etc., etc. I don't know if the Caps are in that category as a team that's really going for it. But I don't mean to put the deal down because I do like it. He did it for years in Buffalo's bottom six, and as a flex, did it in Arizona's top six as well this season. Classic McClellan pickup. So great even strength defense, and I'm sure he'll do well on the Capitals. Fantastic, I have no doubt. Just that, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on the initial price tag. Sanford for a fifth. They got Sanford for Logan Brown, who they drafted in the first round of 2016. So basically, Logan Brown turned into a 2022 fifth. We'll continue to follow that trade tree as Sanford goes off to Winnipeg. I love this trade. I'm sad again to lose a good player. Andrew Hammond, great wholesome guy, fighting hard, making his case in the NHL, played very well. The fans loved him, Andrew Hammond. But he goes to the New Jersey Devils for Nate Schnarr. Not anybody crazy, but he has over 20 points, and I think in 40-some games in the AHL, and he's 23 years of age. Hey, why not? Andrew Hammond, who's just going to play a couple more games. You have Allen back now. Price might be coming back. This guy might not even play at all for the rest of the year. And you get a free 23-year-old who's doing pretty solid in the minors. Why not? Who knows what he'll do, but I love this trade. Big time. Big time. Low-key one of the moves of the day. I'm not just saying because it's the Canadiens. I'm saying it because Hammond was an AHL starter a month ago, and you just turned him into a 23-year-old who was a third-round pick in, I think, 2019. I love it. Nick Merkley going to the Rangers for Anthony Bitetto. Merkley, a prospect who's, I don't know, I don't want to say struggled, but I thought he would have made the league or made a bigger impact by now in the NHL. And I don't know, maybe the Rangers can give him that. The Sharks get back Bitetto. They just traded Middleton, so they get another defenseman. They get Merkley. The Rangers get Mott as well as they trade a fourth-round pick to the Canucks. Mott, one of the heroes of the Canucks last season. They cash out and get a fourth-round pick for him. Here's a big trade right here. Don't know why it's not a major trade, but Rickard Rakell, who, people forget about Rickard Rakell. This guy was scoring 30 goals a few years ago. Rickard Rakell to the Pittsburgh Penguins for not a crazy price tag. Second-round pick, Zach Aston-Reese, who's been a solid Penguin the last few years, but scores like 3 goals a year. He's a depth guy. He body checks a ton. He's a physical presence, and the Penguins will miss him. But depth forward, Dominic Simon and Kalle Klang, a goaltender, with a second-round pick, some prospects, some serviceable guys, and a second. For Rickard Rakell, I thought he would have cost at least a first plus. But hey, the Penguins did well, I think, to make this acquisition. Another team that may push themselves into the category of, we are going for it and we are serious about it. While, Malkin's back to full strength, Crosby's there. Expiring deal of Raquel. Does he stay in Pittsburgh afterwards? I wouldn't be surprised if he did, kind of pull like a Jason Zucker type thing. Middle six scorer who had trouble scoring the last 2 seasons. Yeah, that's for sure. He has, 0% last year in his WAR. Doesn't really create for himself. He's best used beside a playmaking center who can hit him with high danger passes, i.e. Sidney Crosby, right? Deep dive on Raquel. I focused on his finishing issues. What I saw was that he had trouble finishing on chances he made himself, but was very adept at picking corners on moving goalies after receiving a pass. Bang. Sidney Crosby, meet Rickard Rakell. So I think he'll do very well in the Penguins. Who was his playmaking center on the Ducks? Getzlaf's getting old. I don't know if Sam Steele was quite up to it. I like that deal for the Penguins a lot. Not going to dive into the prospects, but I think the Ducks get a good return here. I'd say the main piece is Kalle Klang, because Dominic Simon, 27, depth guy, 9 points in 55 games. He's nothing really. He wasn't the main piece. Not say he's nothing. I'm saying wasn't the main piece of that deal. Klang, third round pick in 2020. Winning record and solid numbers playing in the first division of Sweden. So I like that for the Ducks. They get a good goalie prospect to add to, Lucas Dostal, and a second round pick to boot. So I like it. So now the Anaheim Ducks, with those trades happening, they have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a 4th, 2 fifths, and a 6th, trying to recoup some picks because they already traded their 3rd, 6th, and 7th previously, in previous years even. 2023, they are looking set with 3 seconds, and the exact same thing in 2024 with 3 seconds, plus a 3rd as well in 2023. It's good that they moved some of those UFAs, but they still have a bunch in the system that maybe they could have tried to offload. I don't know. I still like it. They could have done maybe some more today to recoup some picks, but, you still need players to play the game. You got to put a team on the ice. So I like it for the Ducks. And I love it for the Penguins as well. Derek Brassard going to the Edmonton Oilers for a 4th round pick. Brassard, I'm going to read what Jay Fresh said on him here because I think he puts it better than I could. This is a collaboration. I'm not trying to take this as my own. Jay Fresh is the man. So Brassard is a decent fourth line forward who has put up strong defensive results in bottom six matchup minutes lately. So his WAR has gone up. His even strength defense is solid. Expiring contract, fourth line, exactly what a team like Edmonton needs. But again, this is more like throwing your team a bone, where it's like, okay, you guys have been working like dogs. Our injuries leave us decimated, so here's a little bit of depth for you, a little bit of confidence to head into the playoffs. Let's try and do something. Like the Oilers, they couldn't not do anything. Kulak and Brassard for a second and a fourth and a seventh, basically, with Lageson. I'm okay with that for the Oilers. Just, I really hope, for everyone's sake, McDavid's, Draisaitl's, and the fans and the organizations, that things work out in the postseason at least a little bit. But the West is pretty strong. Minnesota, Colorado, they got to wake up if they're going to do it. Max Domi being traded with Tyler Inamido, I believe. My apologies, for Aiden Hirschuk. Florida Panthers also acquire Igor Korshkov from Carolina and a 2022 sixth from Columbus to retain 25% of Domi's contract. So it was Domi at 25% retained to the Hurricanes as the Florida Panthers acted as a broker. They were really tight on cap space, and then they end up using the extra cap space from the Ekblad trade. They have nothing else to trade. They have almost no picks to trade for anymore, no picks to trade with, but they end up acquiring a prospect and a sixth, basically just for using LTIR money. Bang, I love it. Domi, he'll be good on the Hurricanes. He'll have a good supporting cast over there. I don't really know anything about these names. Hirschuk, if I'm even pronouncing that right, is at Boston College. 8 points in 37 games as a defenseman, 19 years of age, third round pick in 2021, if you're curious. So I like that deal for the Hurricanes. Doesn't cost them a ton. And they get a good guy who can, say what you will about Max Domi, he can go a lot of places in the lineup. You can do power play, you can do top nine throughout. I like it for the Hurricanes. And it doesn't cost, and I like the price tag too. Dallas getting Vladislav Nemesnikov for a fourth round pick. I love this deal. Nemesnikov is a very underrated player in the NHL. Only for a fourth round pick on top of that is a solid price for the Dallas Stars to pay. Domi, playmaking forward who fell out of favor with Columbus. Keep that in mind. Offensive upside, but don't expect much defensively in the 4th percentile. But assists per 60, primary assists, 94%. Looking at Nemesnikov, 41%. Solid defensive at 76th percentile. Bottom 6 defensive forward. Dallas needs that, and I like that deal a lot for Dallas. Again, coming at a good price here at $328. They were on the phone at $259, waiting in the queue. They just needed to get something done. The price it's interesting how the economy changes in those last few minutes. Ryan Carpenter to Calgary for a 5th, another quick depth move, just bing bang bong. I like it. Michael McNiven from the Flames to the Senators for future considerations. He went from Montreal to Calgary, then Calgary to Montreal. Hopefully he can find a spot in the Senators system. Riley Nash for future considerations from the Coyotes to the Lightning. Crazy how they just get another good depth piece for just future considerations. Meanwhile, when the Leafs traded for him last year, let me see this here, Maple Leafs, it was for a conditional 7th. If a Nash appears in 25% of the playoff games, now he only played in 2 games. Is that 25%? But regardless, it was a conditional 7th, and now the Lightning get him just basically for free. So, feels good if you're the Lightning. Why not? Future considerations will do you a solid down the road. Okay. New York Rangers pulling a big one in the final minutes of the trade deadline. I don't know why the gap from 4:16 to 6:28 p.m. here, but the Rangers get Andrew Kopp and a 6th round pick for 2 seconds and a 5th, as well as prospect Morgan Barron. I say prospect, but he is 23 years of age. So I like this for the Jets. But again, are they going for it or are they not? They're trading, but they're trading away. Like, just looking at the Jets deals today, you trade away Kopp, but then you trade for Sanford. Then you acquire a pick there. You trade away Beaulieu. You get Appleton. But, what are you doing? Are you going for it? Are you not going for it? I'm a bit confused on that one. But Kopp goes to the Rangers. They do recoup some nice picks for sure, where they have a 1st, 2 seconds, a 3rd, a 4th. They don't have their own 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th, but they have other teams' 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They get a 5th from the Rangers here, a 2nd right here. So it's good for recouping some draft picks as a 2023 2nd as well. It's not showing here. And I could upgrade to a first as well. So I'm not sure. There's probably some conditions on that. Okay, 2 conditional second round picks. One can turn into a second, and the other can be an option. Okay, gotcha. So regardless, it's 2 seconds. Maybe one turns into a first and a fifth with Morgan Barron, 23-year-old, playing in the minors for Andrew Kopp, and a sixth. I like it for the Rangers. A bit costly, but I think Kopp is worth it. He's a solid player. He's a versatile forward who can play in all situations and thrives on special teams, as you can see here. Penalty kill especially, 99th percentile. Used to be a high-end defensive player, but has focused on offense, more in the past 2 seasons, but struggles to finish. So offense has gone up, defense down, as you can see right here. Defense boop boop, and offense zip zip. But penalty kill is huge, and primary assists pretty solid as well. So I like that for the Rangers. And the cost, it's a cost. It's not a crazy cost, but it is what it is. Kraken pretty much get the contract of Victor Rask away from the Minnesota Wild, who they traded. They end up getting future considerations for Nino Niederreiter, as that's who they got for Victor Rask from the Carolina Hurricanes. He goes to Seattle. Tampa Bay Lightning trade Antoine Morin to the San Jose Sharks. They had just acquired him from the Ducks earlier in the year for, what's his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. He was good in one of our franchise mode series. A Russian sniper. I gotta look it up. It's gonna kill me when I see this. Volkov. Yes, Alexander Volkov. Volkov. So yeah, Lightning at a goalie prospect. Just a couple of guys who need to find their way being swapped around. 7:25 p.m. People are still up burning the midnight oil. Evgeny Dadonov going to the Anaheim Ducks with a second round pick. Again, there's another second. Bang, right there. 2024 from Vegas to the Anaheim Ducks. Love it. So yeah, it could be 2023 or 2024. Ducks basically just sending back John Moore and Ryan Kessler's contracts. I'm not sure why this happened. The Ducks had the ability to hang on. I guess it's because Vegas just wanted Dadonov's current cap hit off, and they'll take on Kessler's long-term IR cap hit since it doesn't affect them as much. When they bring, next year they're going to have Eichel, Pacioretty, Stone, all these guys got to get paid when they're at full health, no LTIR. So Dadonov, we knew he was going to move sooner rather than later. He goes to the Ducks. He kind of makes me think of like Jakob Silfverberg there, so I'm sure they'll do all right in the top 6. And they take a second for helping out, and they get to dump a contract, and it only cost them John Moore. So I love this move for the Ducks again. And last deal, Nelson Nogier, or Nogier if he's English, from Marcus Phillips. Just a couple of D-men swapping their spots. That was at 8:13. I don't know if there was any other deals here. Now it's 9:21 p.m. Didn't want to make this video too long. I know it took some time, but I didn't want to make it like an hour and a half or anything, so I'm glad we kind of kept it under. We just took a quick look at all the trades on the day, and that's it. Fantastic. There are all the trades. Now, winners and losers, I kind of broke that down as I went down. I gotta say, big winner of the day, the Anaheim Ducks are up there. The Montreal Canadiens are up there. The Seattle Kraken, losers in the last year, but winners today as they recoup some picks. It's not just who recouped the most picks, but it's who got value for expiring deals, who made smart trades. I like what the Penguins did with Raquel. I like what the Wild did to bolster their goaltending. I like that the Sharks got Kaapo Kähkönen for, instead of just taking him back, a pick for Middleton. I like that smart deal looking at where the needs were necessary. The Jets, not a loser, but like a team where I'm saying I'm not sure what's up with them. Coyotes, I like some more picks that they got. They have 4 seconds, 3 firsts. Bang. The Coyotes are going to be good one day. One day, but they'll be good. A loser, I heard the TSN guys talking about this. I got to say, I think a loser today, New York Islanders, and that's because they didn't make any trades. They have guys expiring. They could have moved Zdeno Chara, Andy Green, and you say, yeah, they're 45, 39, who wants them? There has to be someone out there willing to take one of these guys for a 7th round pick, just to say what's up, just to see what's happening, right? There's no movement clause, nothing. There has to be a team that's willing. I think that the Islanders wanted a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th or whatever, and teams were offering 6ths or 7ths. Pure speculation, but they didn't get what they wanted, and they said, forget it. We'll sit tight. They got to do something. Instead, they re-signed Cal Clutterbuck to $1.75 million extension for 2 more years. He's already 34. I find I don't know about that. And even Zach Parise for another $750K next season. Okay, fine, I guess. That's no problem. But that's all you did today? I don't know. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're a team that was supposed to make the playoffs. it's I would have liked to see something from the Islanders. I think the Canadiens are winners today as well. I think they got good value for what they moved out. They brought in Justin Barron, who's going to be good. So teams that made smarter deals, the sellers sold high, which makes them winners. It was a seller's market, absolutely. And a lot of teams that are going for it. When I think about not just the good teams, but the teams that are going for it, I think of Colorado, Florida, Calgary, Toronto, Pittsburgh now is in there, even Minnesota, Tampa. That's just off the top of my head, not even looking at the chart. Carolina didn't make any crazy moves aside from Domi, but you know what? Maybe that's all they needed to do. So I like that as well. They're going for it. That's already like what, half a dozen plus one or two teams that are going for it. Even the Rangers, the Cop. Man, it's going to be a good postseason. So there are my thoughts on the 2022 NHL trade deadline. I'm sorry I couldn't do mini videos throughout or one big video throughout the day. I was out for about 12 hours today. First time in my life that I wasn't at home for the trade deadline. I was not happy about it, but life comes when you start to get older. So leave a like if you enjoyed this breakdown. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments as well, whether it be agreeing, disagreeing, or your own thoughts about the winners and losers. Be sure to drop by the Discord server. We'd love to talk more. We're about 300 people in there, loving to talk hockey, and you can just add to that community. And if you haven't already, be sure to consider subscribing. We're doing hockey breakdown videos as well as NHL 22 franchise mode, FIFA 22 career mode, the NHL 07 dynasty mode series that I got to pick back up, but it's been really busy, and the redraft series that I just started. Redrafting the top 10 forwards of 2009, redrafting the top 10 defensemen of 2016. If you have an idea of any redraft classes you'd like to see, go check out those videos and leave a comment there. But I'll go ahead and stop with that. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. I hope that it was helpful for you. Who do you think is the Stanley Cup favorites perhaps after this trade deadline? And yeah, just can't wait to engage with all of you down there because I know that you have a lot to say about the NHL. And TSN should be signing you guys up. So I'll be reading all those down there soon. Thank you for taking the time. Enjoy your day, enjoy your evening whenever you're watching this, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.